Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1Million by 1Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we do these free mentoring roundtables every week on Thursday mornings, Pacific time. So this is the 378th session, and we've been doing these since the fall of 2008. In fact, it was before the 1Million by 1Million program in its current form that we started experimenting with these roundtable mentoring formats, and that's what led us up to the 1Million by 1Million program that was launched at the end of 2010. So this event is being recorded. All the recordings of all our roundtables are available on the 1M1M Roundtables channel on YouTube. You will find that and a lot of other video content on that channel that would be useful, video-based learning material to look at. And if you're live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. Join us on Twitter at 1M by 1M or at Shromana. We publish a lot of interesting content. These are the call-in instructions. This is a roundtable, so we do want you to participate as much as you want and as much as you can. These are the call-in instructions to participate. I will put them up when we're ready for open call-in. And you can also continuously through the program use the public chat. Make sure you set it to send to all participants. And that is your way of being able to communicate by writing text. We're going to start the session today with a conversation with Ken Elefant, Managing Director at Sorenson Capital. Ken, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Sharama.
So tell us about Sorenson Capital. What is the focus of the firm? How big is the fund? What size investments do you make? Let's get to know the footprint of Sorenson Capital.
Great. Well, as you probably know, Sorenson Capital was founded in 2002. We have a little bit over $1 billion under management, and we do both early stage and growth equity investments. So at Sorenson Ventures, where I'm a managing director, we do all of the early stage investments, and we're focused on software and security investments. So we do mostly Series A, some seed investments, and some early B rounds. Sorenson Capital is a private equity fund which does lower mid-market private equity deals, buyout deals, and they also do growth equity, so later stage deals.
And what is the size of the early stage commitment?
So typically when we invest at Sorenson Ventures, we're investing initially $2 million to $5 million in startup companies. We've done a couple of investments that are smaller than that and a couple of investments that are larger than that. And at Sorenson Capital, on the growth equity side, they typically write $20 million to $40 million checks.
So for the rest of this conversation, let's keep our focus on the early stage activity of your fund, because that's really where we play and that's where our community is. So the other question I have on the early stage activity of your fund, what is the size of the fund that is committed to early stage activity? 50 million, 100 million, what is committed for early stage?
Yeah, so we're in the process of deploying $100 million in this fund.
Okay, perfect. So you said software and security. Can you double click on that for us and tell us a bit more about, industry sectors or what kind of, what specifically within software, assuming it sounds like you do B2B only, not B2C, yes?
Correct. We don't do any consumer investments. We only do enterprise investments. And so what we're seeing in the enterprise space is that there's been a movement over the last 15 years going from client server to internet-enabled enterprises, and now enterprises are going cloud native. So you've probably heard of Docker and Kubernetes. And so this movement to cloud is a real movement that enterprises are undertaking right now. And with that, what that means is that the entire software stack is changing. So that means if you're using virtualized servers from VMware, you're probably thinking now, what am I going to do with my stack as it moves to cloud? And obviously VMware has a play there, as does Cisco and so on. But this is a real opportunity for startups as well. And in the software space, there's opportunities around orchestration, there's opportunities around systems management, DevOps, as well as analytics and storage and so on. So that entire software stack is changing. And that also relates to security, because if you're moving a lot of your workloads to containers and leveraging microservices, is a new attack vector for the bad guys that are out there. And so as such, we're looking at any companies that are related to this movement to cloud, whether it's software or security.
Okay. And is it only enterprise, or are you doing mid-market facing B2B startups as well?
In my past, we have done several mid-market startups. So for example, I'm an investor in Alien Vault, which, as you probably know, has a complete package. It started with security and information event management, but now it has IPS functionality, asset management functionality, all built into one for small and mid-sized enterprises as well. And they sell through managed security service providers, which are also targeting the mid-sized enterprise.
Okay. And what about geography?
Geography, we're focused on the United States. Since we are doing so much in security, we do spend a lot of time in Israel as well. But there's no issue with doing investments around the world. In the past, I have done investments in India, in China, in Japan, in Western Europe, in Eastern Europe, and so on. So there's no problem with that. I've been involved with companies around the world. I would say that we do have a proclivity of investing in the United States and in Israel. And Sorenson, well, I'm based in Palo Alto, and Sorenson Ventures is based in Palo Alto. Sorenson Capital is based in Salt Lake City and in the Mountain States. And so they have really good networks and deal flow from Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and the entire mountain region.
Okay. Now, talk a little bit about your current portfolio. What have you invested in? How do you decide what to invest in? As you are talking about your portfolio, point out how you analyze those deals, and just kind of give us a flavor of how you analyze the ones that you have invested in.
Sure. So for Sorenson Ventures, we've invested in 2 companies so far. We're about to do our third. They're all stealth, so I can't talk about them specifically, but what I can say is what we look for, and I can give you some parameters of these opportunities. So our first 2 deals, I think that the first thing that we look for is entrepreneurs that have phenomenal domain experience for the problem that they're trying to solve. So if you're trying to do security around microservices, you should have a security background, like out of a Palo Alto Networks or Checkpoint or some other enterprise security company in the past, because you would understand where there's gaps in the current market opportunity. So domain experience is critically important, and we see that in all of our startups. And the other thing associated with the team is it's always better if you have a team that knows how to recruit people and has had success in the past. So in our first investment, this is the founders' third startup together. They sold their last startup for about $400 million, and they're very, very good in terms of cloud and cloud data, and the opportunity that they're going after completely leverages their past. So that's a good example of team dynamics. The deal that we are going to close in the next 30 days or so is a first-time entrepreneur who has phenomenal domain experience in terms of kind of security penetration from the outside of the enterprise. This is exactly what he's done in the past, and I'm very confident that we can help him build a team around him. So that's what we look for. Number one is team. Number two is what is the market opportunity? We like to go after opportunities in small but rapidly growing markets. Because by definition, if you're going after a large market, there's already large competitors in the market. So the startups need to find a market that they think that they are going to be the category leader in, and that this market is going to be a large market over several years. And then the third thing that we look for is what is the differentiation of the company. Sometimes it's technical differentiation, sometimes it is channel or marketing differentiation, but it's really important for startups to have a long-term differentiation that they can move forward with.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that you said, which I found somewhat distinct actually, is that you're looking for smaller markets and not these mega, markets that most VCs tend to go for. So one of my observations is that we're in 2017 and lots of stuff have already been built. And nowadays there aren't so many wide open opportunities out there, but there are many, many niche opportunities. Some of these businesses need to be built for small amounts of capital, $1 to $2 million and sold for 10 to 15 million. Some maybe even smaller, 250 to 500K, and sell for 5 to 10 million. I imagine you're not interested in these types of investments, but what is your definition of small when you're looking for TAM, for instance? The most common answer we hear from VCs is we're looking for billion-dollar TAMs, but I sense that you have a different approach. So how do you peg TAM in this kind of shifting environment?
Well, I'll give you a few examples from the past. So, for example, I was an investor in Prolexic, which did security from the cloud. Now, certainly, distributed denial of service attacks were already happening, and there were some kind of early potential solutions with that, and some firewalls had reasonable solutions. But when I invested in Prolexic, it was clear to me that the security needed to be done from the cloud. So there is an existing market problem. The approach of the startup was completely different. So they created this new market associated with doing security from the cloud, with distributed denial of service being the first wedge into the market. And they could add on to their platform other security opportunities. So that's an example. There's an existing market out there, but their twist into the market is nobody could do it from the cloud like Prolexic could.
But how do you parlay the TAM equation on that?
How do I size the market on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way that you size the market is if you know that the global 10,000 all have a distributed denial of service problem, you can understand from the bottoms up how much each one of these enterprises would pay if there was an applicable solution that was out there. And if you believe that the company is going to be developing the right solution for that market, then they should get a lot of market share for that potential problem.
So in that case, you're looking basically at your solution being a replacement for the entire global 10,000. So it's effectively the same market size as any other security solution. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, if you look at it from an enterprise 2,000 or 10,000 approach, they may have part of the problem solved with an existing product. But if that part of the market is becoming more and more evident, then those existing solutions are going to become worse and worse, and a new approach needs to take effect. And so if a new approach needs to take effect, then essentially you're creating a whole new market. And if a whole new market gets created...
That's a regular venture style investment. I would say that doesn't really fall in this niche, smaller TAM model. That's a regular venture style investment, I think.
Yeah, I think that I look at it a bit differently than other venture investors, because what we want to do is we want to highlight what are the trends that are happening where whole new companies could be created that the incumbents cannot move to address that opportunity. So we talked about the movement to cloud and how many of the global 10,000 enterprises are actually starting to put Docker into production and using Kubernetes for orchestration and actually implementing microservices and serverless architecture. So that movement is happening. Is there a security company that's really associated with that movement to cloud? There are some startups that are focused on container security, but nothing that's really focused on directly solving that problem. So that's an example of an area where I think there's a whole new market that's emerging, and there's no security vendor that's using it. But you could say, hey, that's just you know, apps for enterprises. That's app security. Well, it is and it isn't. It's a whole new market that's being developed.
How do you parse the Series A gap that has you know, come about in the market? There's a lot of early stage you know, pre-Series A investment, and in fact there's a tremendous segmentation that has started to take place in the pre-Series A space right now. There's, you know, there's the eternal friends and family round, but then there is now funds that are focused on pre-Series A, pre-seed, seed, post-seed, pre-Series A. So there are, you know, micro VCs that are picking certain areas of the, you know, pre-Series A phase. But then the number of companies that actually get funded in Series A remains relatively constant in the 1,200 to 1,500 range, whereas in the pre-Series A there are 70,000 investments, 50,000 investments a year. How do you analyze that?
Oh, I completely agree with that, and that's exactly where we saw that there was a gap in the market for traditional Series A investors. Investors that would roll up their sleeves and help founders and CEOs with getting their initial customers and partners, with being kind of a mini McKinsey of sorts and helping them work through the different product strategies and helping them focus on different markets, being a recruiter and helping them bring in their VP level talent, and being kind of a mini investment bank to help them think about their fundraising strategy and M&A and IPO strategy. So at Sorenson Ventures, we're positioned as a traditional Series A investor that you used to see, you know, from 10 or 15 years ago. So we're perfectly happy if the round size is anywhere between 2 million and 10 million. We can either do it ourselves or we can syndicate it with another firm. But what we've seen in the market is that there's a lot of other good VC firms that have raised larger and larger funds, and what they like to invest in are companies that actually have, you know, 10 plus real paying global 2,000 customers. That's where we can help.
So you don't necessarily need that much validation. You're saying that you're willing to do deals that have a lot less validation as a Series A deal?
Completely. You know, 2 of the 3 deals that we're in process with at Sorenson Ventures are pre-revenue, completely pre-revenue.
Okay. And when you are doing a pre-revenue deal, what do you look for in terms of customer validation? POCs?
Well, one of the things that Sorenson Ventures has from our past, you know, having worked at both Battery Ventures and Lightspeed as well as Intel Capital, is we have really good connections into global 10,000 chief information officers and chief security officers. So when we start to do diligence on deals, we talk to the potential alpha customers that the startup has, but we also make introductions to our friends in different firms to validate the problem and the gap in the market. So that is the best way that we can do due diligence. It's also the best way for us to add value to the companies that we are potentially investing in. So for example, during the due diligence process for one of our security companies, what we did is we introduced them to one of the chief security officers of a global 2,000 company. it turns out that that company is going to be a beta customer for the startup. And that all happened during our due diligence process. Okay.
And how do you parse unicorn mania? As an early stage investor, you could get buried under later stage liquidation preferences if a company gets in this mode. How do you protect yourself? And how do you, in general, what is your perspective about the somewhat crazy behavior that has come about in the market recently?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good question because what I've seen in the past is there's a lot of early stage funds that really don't do a great job protecting their positions. They don't reserve enough for their funds. So at Sorenson Ventures, we reserve half the fund for follow-on investments. And what that allows us to do is that in follow-on rounds for well-performing companies, we can continue to invest and load up in the companies.
So your strategy with Unicorn Mania is to just participate in it?
Yeah, we would participate in rounds if we thought that in those later rounds you also could get a 10x plus return on those rounds.
Yeah, so having both venture and growth capital within the fund allows you to do that.
Well, the way that we would do it is Sorenson Ventures has its own reserve set up for each of its investments, and then Sorenson Capital, as a late-stage firm, would look independently at the company. And if they decided to invest, then they can invest independently. Okay.
Very good. So I know you have to catch a plane. So we're going to move to the mentoring section of the session today, and I know you want to stay on the call at least if you can. So thank you very much for your comments so far, and let's see how much of the rest of the program you can participate in from your situation.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ken. Folks, those of you who are going to present today, I want to set some expectations. You know, this is a working session, right? And the only reason we are here is to help you accelerate your businesses. We have no other agenda whatsoever. So feel completely safe to discuss what is it that you're struggling with, what your roadblocks are, and what your challenges are, and we'll do our best to give you insights into how to remove those or what are realistic expectations. You know, often we find ourselves resetting expectations that are unrealistic in the context of the market. Now, it is possible that you may disagree with the feedback you get here. That's okay. It's your venture. Eventually, strategic decisions are yours. Take the input, process the input, think about it, and then the decision is finally yours, obviously. The one thing that you have to remember is not all businesses can raise money. Not all businesses should raise money, and raising money does not guarantee success. That is a fact of this industry, so you have to take that into account. Okay, we're going to start with Elena Avramenko. The company is OkiDoki, the family collaboration tool. Okay, Elena, please unmute your line and tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, hi. Hello. Do you
Hello.
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so
where are you calling from?
let me. Yeah, I'm calling from Amsterdam, the Netherlands.
Okay.
So it is evening now. So yeah, and I'm happy to be on this call, and I'd like to tell you about my startup. Could you please switch to another slide, and I will start. Okay, so who we are? We are actually currently two founders. Me, Elena, I'm with a business background, and my second partner is a technical guy, Ivan. Currently, we are located in the Netherlands, as I said, but originally we are from Ukraine. Together, previously, we've been running our company that was called Pop-Up Factory for 7 years, and we did an educational children mobile games. And during these 7 years, we released around 40 games for the children. They are still available in App Store. And currently we are also doing a project targeted for the children, but now we are trying to make a scalable project, not a one-time paid game, but something much bigger. But
so the games that you have done so far, Elena, the games that you've done so far are for other people, they're contract games, you build them because somebody else asked you to do it?
Not really. This is our own product line. So this is 40 games we developed in our office as our own products. And we released these products in App Store. And actually, what I'm especially proud of, one of our games received an Apple Design of the Year award in education innovation category in Russian market.
And have
another game, Huh?
Have you made money of these games? These 40 games have produced revenue for you?
Actually, we made money, but among 40 games, only 10 games were successful. So you can imagine 25%, but I think it's nice percentage. I mean, for the venue. But yeah, we earned money, and actually that is why we have own money to build an MVP of our product, our current product, our OkiDoki.
Okay.
So the next slide, thank you. So what is OkiDoki actually? OkiDoki, if it is say in one, I need to say in one sentence, it is a Slack for families with 6 to 12 years old children. So as you know, Slack is a tool that helps business teams to work effectively. So we think that idea of efficient and effective work can be applied to the families with children also. And we see this product as a very practical and useful tool, usually used in mobile devices, to optimize family routine connected with children and also connect all the family members in one place. Next slide, please. So why we think that OkiDoki will be useful for the families? So first of all, you can keep all the family members together in one application. So in one application, you will have only family members, nobody external, no peers, no other people, no external contact. Grandmother, father, I don't know, siblings, everybody else. It will be very secure and safe.
I'll tell you one thing that I'm listening to you and I'm thinking that these days families tend to be small. You know, maybe there's only one child or maximum 2 children. 3, 4, 5 children families are a lot rarer. So your market size is very, very small. And it seems like it would be only interesting if you have a larger family.
In the Netherlands, it's typical 3 kids family, let's switch. I will tell about my market, at least my estimation later on. So what I'm thinking that my target audience is a millennial parent, and currently, on average, a millennial parent has 1 child at the age of 5. So in a couple of years, we will have like age of 6, 7 for my target audience. And what also millennials, they are very mobile. They are traveling all around the world, and usually parents, I mean grandparents and grandchildren, they are disconnected. I mean they are not living close by. I'm estimating target audience as it will be a paid subscription business model. And I estimated this 7.4 million of paying subscribers as I took 10% of male parents, and I included only markets with GDP per capita $8,000 more or less.
But as I said, the vector that is missing from your segmentation is if the family size is very small, then I don't think this is very useful.
So what is the values of the product? So we see the main values as from we need to create value for the parents and also for the children. For the parents, we see value two main points. It's education and the routine optimization. Between the children and parents, we have definitely connection as a value. And from the children perspective, we have fun and assistance, like helping to be on time everywhere, for example. So what is our roadmap? We released our MVP. It is a basic version of the application. And our next steps for this year is actually to introduce educational tools powered by voice recognition. For example, a smart bot that will test the child knowledge of multiplication table by voice, or like similar school subject like geography and history. And the second big part that we'd like to introduce is the tools actually that will help parents to manage their children's activities. For example, like task board manager, or maybe scheduler or location tracker of your child. Next, please. Yeah, what is my question? And actually, I'd like to ask you, Ramana, to help me. So currently, we are working, and this roadmap that I introduced, it is for 2018. And we will try to approach this as experimentation. So we will introduce different features one by one, and we will see the reaction of users. Is it acceptable or not? And we will experiment and change to make the product offer as best as possible. But anyway, you are
Elena, are you listening? I gave you a few pieces of feedback. I asked you some questions, which you basically kind of just glossed over. But it is one of the core issues that you're going to hear me out first. It is one of the core issues that you're going to need to address. Your second question is, do you see the potential in this market segment? And my question to you is, what is the market segment you're after? Are you after families that have several children, which makes the coordination complex and communication complex? And that is a much smaller percentage of the parent market today, because people tend to have very small families. That is one of the central questions in your business. A Slack kind of communication offering to me seems like an overkill for a family with parents and one child or two children. It's like taking a hammer to...
Yeah, but maybe not in the USA. Maybe, I need to position my product to the specific countries. Like, for example, in Russia, you have one child, but usually starting from the age of 9, your child will travel alone by different locations in the city to participate like in different activities. And the main problem, for example, that parent has is to understand the location of child, or just to remind a child to be on time in a certain place. And
so that's
even with one child.
But hold on, Elena. What you described, your first question is, is the product offering clearly stated? By saying a Slack-like collaboration tool for the family does not address that value proposition at all. What brings to mind a Slack-like communication tool is like there's a lot of, communication going on and volume of communication, different threads of communication. That's what Slack helps manage. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about very specific, very pointed problems. Like this thing you're talking about location, something to do with managing locations, tracking, and so forth. That's a very different, value proposition. So I wouldn't position this as a Slack-like collaboration tool for the family. That's the wrong positioning. So you have two wrong positionings here. One is calling it a Slack-like collaboration tool, and two is, the minute you say it's a Slack-like collaboration tool, the first question that will come is, we're talking about managing and coordinating large families, which is very rare these days. So if you are, if you want to see a larger potential in the market, you need to see what is the value proposition for the more generic family style. Either that, or you go for the larger families and figure out what is the market size for the larger families, and then your product is specifically for large families. And these are choices. These are clear choices, and you have to create product directions and product positioning based on those choices, and those choices are not clear here right now.
I see. Okay, yeah. This is very valuable for me, yeah, because, I never considered this as a, because it's my product, I couldn't look at my product from the outside,
and there may be a fine opportunity in larger families, but you need to size the market. What percentage of families, how many families are out there today who have 3, 4, 5 children? In which case, maybe what you're offering is applicable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I will reposition. I'm not going to target like a multi-children families. I just need to adjust my product offering and the message that I'm telling to people.
Yeah, then you need to change the product offering and the product roadmap and the positioning. Okay, good. So that's that's my feedback on your project. And if you hang on, we can talk more later. I have 3 other people whose pitches we're going to listen to next.
Cool.
And this is,
Thank you so much.
This is Ken from, can you hear me?
Yes, Ken, go ahead, please.
Okay, great, So from my perspective, and I have invested in this space, I was an investor in a company called Super Secret. I agree with what Sharama is doing, but the first, and by the way, I think you have great domain experience for this project, so congratulations on that. The go-to-market here, it is extremely noisy. So I was wondering, have you thought about a very good channel partner for you, like Knowledge Adventure or somebody else that would find this strategic? Because the problem is that with all of the noise going towards parents and children, getting access to the market in a cost-effective way is very difficult.
Okay, thank you. Have you? Can you maybe advise some of the companies that I can contact with, because I have no ideas actually. I didn't think about this.
So it depends on which geography you're going after. Also, you're alluding to the fact that you're going after Russian market. That the channel partners for Russia would be very different than channel partners for America or any other market.
And for United States, for example.
What I would do if I was you is, why don't you look at related companies that are not competitive to you and see how they're distributing the product. I don't think you need to reinvent anything, but if there's an educational product targeted at 12-year-olds and tweens that is more towards, I don't know, fashion or something like that, then look at where that is getting distribution. There's game aggregators in every market. There's big, large companies like Disney, which acquired Club Penguin, and has also moved up market, and so on. So I think for you to get through the noise, you're going to need to find a cost-effective way to acquire users. You know, you can acquire users through Facebook as well. So some companies do it that way.
So Elena, this is one of the hardest things in the mobile app space right now. Is it's so noisy. Very few companies break through that noise and actually get traction. So especially in the U.S. market. So you know, and frankly, to be able to get large channel partners to work with you, you're going to have to show some validation. They're not just going to take you on as a product to distribute with no validation, with no traction, nothing. So this B2C consumer app space is extremely complex and difficult to get into at this point. And you're going to need to really figure out a niche, an opening, you know, a gap. And the U.S. market probably is not the best place for you to get in. You're going to need to find a market that is less crowded and less noisy. I don't advise you to get into the U.S. market as the first market.
Okay, thank you. Nice.
You're welcome. All right, folks, we're going to move to Jason Wisdom. Jason, please unmute your line and tell us about your business.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Shramana, and thank you, Ken, for joining us and being on the call and giving feedback. My name is Jason Wisdom. I'm a co-founder and chief technology officer of Aponia Data. We focus on cognitive solutions, cognitive computing, machine learning, artificial intelligence, et cetera, for the audit, governance, risk, and compliance space. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. My hobby, actually, if you could go to the previous slide for a moment, that picture of me is completing my first Spartan race in May of this year. So I think if you're doing any kind of startup, you need a physical challenge activity. So I hope Spartan races are physical enough. Also, I do like to travel the world. I've been to over 30 countries, most recently Poland and Brazil, and I also create my own music. I was a professional musician for 9 years. So, and I like blueberries. So next slide. So we do operational risk management. If we're going to do the Gartner Magic Quadrant series, they have a chain of Magic Quadrants called operational risk. This is a niche of a niche. So take financial services and then risk management within financial services, and then governance, risk, and compliance and audit within that. So we are part of the family of operational risk management, Magic Quadrants with Gartner. That's the spaces that we do. We are 100% cloud-based. Right now we have a software as a service product. So we're not doing platform as a service. We're not doing Docker, although we are speaking with both IBM, thank you, IBM and Google about joining their Bluemix and Google Cloud offerings. So there's any number of directions that we can take this. We have two co-founders. One is Jason Giuliano. He's the Chief Executive Officer. He has more than 20 years of experience in financial executive management. He was the Chief Information Security Officer for a Tier 1 bank, the Global Real Estate Program. He's a serial entrepreneur. He started and sold 2 companies, and now this is his 3rd startup. He knows risk management like the back of his hand. And we have a number of subject matter experts on our staff. I am the Chief Technology Officer. I also have 20 years of experience. I'd say after the .com, I was the technical lead there. I was doing business intelligence for insurance companies, accounting departments for most of the 2000s. So it was a freelance lifestyle business that let me travel the world. It was very exciting. I eventually got bored of that, so I got into the big data and artificial intelligence space. I've worked for Pivotal, I've worked for KPMG, and I know data very well. Jason, for the 2 Jasons, IBM, the conferences, the 2 Jasons, I've heard of you. It's a good name recognition. Anyway, the need for this. Companies getting fined millions or billions of dollars is nothing new. It's been in the news headlines for at least 4 or 5 years. For some companies, this is make or break. I'd say the real urgent need right now is that services are getting commoditized. So all of the financial services offerings used to have rich profit margins, but not only are the profit margins shrinking, but the regulations are getting exponentially more complex. You know, there's a regulation going into the European Union next year that if you fail to comply with it, they will fine you 4% of your global gross. This is a wake-up call. Everyone is taking this seriously. It's just as important as the Y2K bug. So the problem is that audit and risk management is being done completely manually. With the ever-increasing complexity of regulations, companies just can't afford to hire more and more senior compliance officers when their own profit margins are shrinking and decreasing. Risk management needs to be automated. This is not nice to have. This is make or break. Our largest client, which I'll get to in a moment, flat out said that if they don't do this, they will go out of business. And for a client to say that to a vendor during a sales cycle is a pretty powerful statement. Next slide. Our value is twofold. And I say in the slide that we're targeting mid-markets just because we are in conversation with a number of enterprise financial companies. I'm based in New York, so it's a subway or a train right away to almost every global financial institution in the world. Maybe not their headquarters, but anyway. So the problem is the enterprise is already being chased by the big four, even IBM themselves, which we have a deep partnership. IBM's chasing them, and we're in talks in IBM to get them to resell our solution. The problem is IBM has so many companies, it's difficult to saturate the word. And so we have the program managers on our side, we're penetrating the sales staff. Anyway, the value is twofold. One is business process automation at a risk management level, which nobody's really doing that with cognitive and machine learning features. And the cognitive part really makes a difference to be able to predict what needs attention versus what does not. And that's a technical differentiator that we have. The other value that we offer is that our customers are taking this and they're reselling services to their own clients based on our product. So we have a product, they're using it, but they're saying, hey, our clients can use this as well. Can we resell this? And of course, we're saying, yes, absolutely. So it's a whole new interesting possibility that's opening up for us. Next slide. I'm skimming through this because I want to be mindful of the time. But anyway, time for Q&A. We have a platform that can support many products, and right now we have 2 products on that platform that are ready for customer use and subscription billing. First is called vendor risk management. So companies need to show that not only are they in compliance with government regulations, but they need to show that their vendors are in compliance with the government regulations as well. If you're using Google Cloud and you're getting audited against HIPAA compliance, if you're a healthcare company, you need to show that Google Cloud is HIPAA certified or HIPAA compliant, not just your own company, et cetera. So we have a vendor risk management. It's a bit of a niche space. It's getting some attention, but there's really no major players in the space. The only enterprise company that has a vendor risk management platform is EMC, and we bring predictive risk modeling to vendor risk management to save you a lot of times when reviewing documents, et cetera. Our second product, next slide please, is audit management. We call it Smart Audit 360. This is where we use IBM Watson to, it's not like the H&R Block commercial. If you've seen the Watson commercial during the Super Bowl, Watson's really good at creating commercials where H&R Block will cognitively automate your tax process, kind of like TurboTax on the cloud. We're a little different than that. And the value that we bring to IBM is that we have an actual living, breathing use case that doesn't involve call center or sentiment analytics. We cognitively can come up with answers to control questions that a compliance officer might ask to find out if their documentation, let's say they upload 30 documents into a binder, we can search through that and tell, are we covering gross profits? Are we covering debt percentage? Are we covering any other keywords? So there's a number of cognitive features that we have. We have a chatbot. We're using 3 or 4 different Watson components, and we're using, besides that, mostly open source technologies or entirely open source technologies. Mm-hmm. So we don't do the quantitative audit around trial balances and general ledgers. We do the qualitative audit. Are these controls being addressed? Our go-to-market strategy, we have an existing client base just through our network and networking efforts. We're starting to speak at events. We have business partnerships with IBM and Google, and both of those companies are very interested in bringing our name under their successful use cases umbrella. So we're using technologies from both companies. We're in conversations with senior architects from both companies. Our clients.
So Jason, do you have a slide on your existing clients? Are you going to talk about your existing clients, who they are, what kind of size of clients are we talking about?
Most are under NDA. We're working on getting public testimonials. I'll say that our top client is one of the top 10 accounting firms in the U.S. I'd say revenues for this year is going to, depending on if the check comes in the mail, revenues for this year is going to be about $400,000.
Okay.
And
that $400,000 is from how many clients?
I'd say 2 major and several smaller. The lion's share, more than 75%, comes from a single client.
Okay.
There are, I'd say we have many mid-market companies that are using this like on a trial/beta/utility basis that we just charge them a residual. But we have a subscription-based product. But we have 1 major client, and I'd say 1 minor client, and then many niche clients.
Okay. And you're looking for funding?
We're looking for funding. We started off 3 years ago. We bootstrapped. We built the company to where we are organically. The difference for us is, this is a ticking market. Our product is ahead of what anyone else is doing, and I know everyone's going to say that, but I feel that I can back it up. I'm the CTO. I've architected the whole thing, and what we're doing, nobody else in the world is doing. But we're not going, 3 years from now, we're not going to have that competitive advantage. Other companies that are in similar spaces to us are getting funded. So if any venture capital doesn't
I think you are a fundable company, most likely. I have to look at it a little bit more, but I think it's a fundable company.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I know that different VCs are going to be looking for companies in this space. Again, we have cognitive computing in a use case that's not just call center sentiment analysis or news sentiment analysis. We're actually doing this to create and solve an original problem the way that no one else is doing. Our big paranoia.
So let me answer your questions. I have to work with another couple of entrepreneurs, but let me answer your questions.
Yeah.
First and foremost, as I said, it is most likely a fundable company. Your presentation still needs some work. One of the most important pieces missing from, well, several important pieces missing. 1 is a bottom-up TAM analysis. 2 is a complete, and I'm not saying that all that was expected to be here, because we don't give you enough time to do a full investor pitch in this presentation. As an investor pitch, yeah, for an investor pitch, you're going to need a bottom-up TAM analysis. You're going to need a comparative analysis and stuff like that. Go to the self-assessment, 1M1M self-assessment on our website, and work through those questions and then synthesize that into an investor presentation. We have templates and stuff of investor presentations in our curriculum that you can use as well. Now, your question about introductions, you have to be part of the 1M1M accelerator to be introduced. We have tons of people that we can introduce you to. This is what we do for, just yesterday, actually day before yesterday, I introduced one of our companies that is ready for financing to 22 investors in 15 minutes. So yes, I can introduce you to lots of investors, no problem, but you have to be part of our accelerator for doing that. But I do think you have a promising company. We are, I think there's, at least doing what we do, I'm pretty confident that this is a company that we can help and get to the next level. If you need help, you can also do it by yourself.
I really appreciate your feedback, Shramana. Ken, do you have any thoughts as well?
What is the title of the person that you're trying to target inside the enterprise?
Chief Information Security Officer, Chief Information Officer, Chief Compliance Officer, or a Managing Director reporting to one of those offices.
Okay, so I actually, I think what you will find when you target enterprises is that those job titles will actually not be interested in this, because you're actually going to be showcasing all of the potential liabilities that they have, and they're mostly interested of getting through the audit and not getting fined. I think if you target the Chief Risk Officer, I think that's a better target. So I'm happy to chat offline with you. I was an investor in Versa Systems, which did Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. And so I have a few insights in terms of who you should target. Because unfortunately, and it's a little bit sad, is that a lot of these companies don't want to know where they're out of compliance with GDPR. All they want to do is they just want to pass the audit. Okay?
I hear that. I'm happy to do that. Thank you. And I'd like to invite my CEO to join, because I think he'll He's the subject matter
Ken,
expert.
could you elaborate on what you said in the context of the mid-market? Because if I understood correctly, Jason said that he and other Jason are approaching the mid-market in the financial services sector and not the enterprise because the enterprise is too crowded. Does your comment still apply to the mid-market?
Yes, for sure. Because think about it. Every quarter you have an auditor show up, and what you want to do is you want to pass the audit, and you don't want any issues showing up in your 10K and 10Q. That is the objective. And so the people that he was talking about targeting are the ones that are in charge of making sure there's no issues inside the enterprise. But
I guess the question I'm asking, Ken, is there a risk officer in the mid-market, a designated risk officer, or does he need to look for some other title in the mid-market hierarchy, decision-making chain?
I think every company that's 1,000 people and up has a chief risk officer. Okay,
there you go. So, Jason, I think you've got quite a bit of feedback that you can process, and let's move to the next presenter. Very good presentation. What you're doing is very interesting, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, both of you and everybody. Thank you.
Jose Avalos Rogel from San Mateo Arenco in Mexico. Please unmute your line, Jose, and tell us what you're working on.
Hello, Romana, Maureen, Ken, and everyone. How are you?
You have a menagerie.
Okay. Okay. This is me. I'm a 50 years old man, chemical engineer. I am a family man, a pet lover, mainly dogs. Okay. And my company is Nouvelle Pharmaceutiques de Mexico. And after 26 years of extensive experience, mainly in pharmaceutical industry, working for American company Pfizer, French Sanofi, Swiss Roche, and Spanish Ferrer, I have found that my mission as a professional, and of course is the mission of my company, is help people to improve their health. As you can see in my contact data, in my LinkedIn profile, all those companies I have mentioned. Next slide.
So what is the solution when you say improve health? What are you trying to do? We know there's all kinds of health issues. Talk about specifically what health issue are you addressing? Are you helping address?
Okay. My target customer is the people that have lack of health, and there are uncovered segments in Mexico and in Latin America. For example, there are 6.5 million people suffering diabetes in Mexico. And I would like to bring products from other countries that exist and cover this lack of products. For example, talking about diabetes, my plan is to bring, for example, one product from Spain, a dental toothpaste, especially for diabetic people. If there are 6 million people suffering diabetics, my plan is to sell just the 10% of these products that help.
So Jose, are we talking about an e-commerce company that sells products to diabetics, specific products that are custom products for the diabetics?
Yes, that products that there are just a few competitors there are just few competitors in Mexico, and we have a huge opportunity to help people and to make business. For sure, we want to use e-commerce, internet, and create an application in a mobile phone or device. Mexico is an emerging market, and the mobile phones and device technology is growing up very fast. So many people is using Amazon, but there are just a few e-commerce pages regarding pharmaceutical, food supplements, or products. So I have found different suppliers around the world that could help to, my company is a proper register in front of Mexican authorities. We can import these products, create the e-commerce, the web page, application, the mobile apps in order to
right, so an e-commerce business, how to build an e-commerce business is a very well understood methodology today. You know, we have seen for the last 20+ years e-commerce companies be built, and there's a ton of well understood steps of how to build an e-commerce business. So if that's what your business is, that you're going to go after the diabetic market and sell diabetes-specific products like toothpaste and supplements and so on and so forth to the Mexican diabetic market, that I know how to build that company. What is this question? 30% of total profits is your question? What is the question?
Okay, my question and my objective is to invite angel venture capital investor in order to create this.
This is a company that is not fundable yet. You're a concept level company, and concept level companies mostly don't get funded. So you're going to need to do some work in putting a business together. Concepts don't get funded. It's businesses that get funded, really, unless you have like a huge amount of domain knowledge and past track record where you have built companies before, and you can walk into investors and say, hey, I know how to build companies. I've built a company, 2 companies before, and I've made money for my investors, and I have tremendous domain knowledge in this particular area, and write me a $3 million check, and I will build the company. That is a pitch that will work, but your pitch, if you go to investors and say that I'm going to build this company and give me money, that's not going to work. So you're going to have to bootstrap your way to some level of validation, and then maybe you will get funded, but I don't even know what the TAM equation is for this business and so forth. So you have a lot of work to do and a lot of learning to do. The good news is, as I said, these kinds of companies have been built. Lots of e-commerce companies have been built. We have a whole module on how to build e-commerce companies. We have case study after case study on how to build e-commerce companies. So if you want to learn how to build an e-commerce company, we can teach you how to do that.
Okay, thank you for your advice. But there are just few e-commerce companies in Mexico regarding pharmaceutical, food supplements, or medical devices here in Mexico and in Latin America in general. There's few. So that's the great opportunity.
That's great. You have to find an opportunity. You have to find a niche. You have to find a gap. So it sounds like you have found a gap. Now you have to quantify the gap. You have to figure out how to acquire customers cost effectively and profitably from that gap and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of checklist items that you need to work through. But those are known items. Those checklist items are known. There's a blueprint for building e-commerce companies.
Okay. Thank you, Sumana, for your advice.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And this is Ken. The only other thing that I would add to that is that luckily LinkedIn is out there. If I was you, I would go try and LinkedIn with whoever is running Amazon in Mexico or eBay in Mexico, and try and have them invest $25,000 in your company and also give you advice to get this thing lifted off. It'll also help create a halo effect around your company to bring in other investors.
Okay, Ken. Okay, thank you.
All right, so next presenter is Mohammad Mahmoud Abdallah from Jordan. Mohammad, please unmute your line. Mohammad? Something wrong with Mohammad's line? What's going on? Okay, well, I'm going to skip through and tell you about how to use 1 million by 1 million and go to questions. So since Mohammad has not called in, we're going to skip through his presentation. I would like to request one thing before we move to the next section. If you like what we are doing here, as you can see, these are pretty direct feedback. It's not sugar-coated. It's not making you feel good. It's basically figuring out what you need to do, where are the gaps, and just very, direct, cut and dry, constructive critique of where you are, what you might be able to do to get to the next level, and so forth. It's if you have appetite for that kind of feedback and that kind of working mode, that's how we work in the rest of the program. This is just a flavor of it. Then, if you like what we're doing, then please refer serious entrepreneurs into 1M by 1M. And the word serious, you notice, is in bold. We are not really interested in fly-by-night entrepreneurs who think that they're going to raise money on a pitch deck within 30 days and blah, blah, blah. Building companies is a very comprehensive endeavor, and it takes a tremendous amount of work to build a company and to get anywhere where you can even remotely qualify for funding. Over 99% of the entrepreneurs who apply for funding actually do not get funded for a variety of reasons. The first and most important reason that you have to remember is the venture capital model is designed for companies which have two characteristics. One is hyper-fast growth rate and two, very large total available market. And the vast majority of companies that seek financing do not qualify. They're often, however, they're very viable businesses, and that's okay to build those viable businesses. Maybe they're linear growth businesses, maybe they're 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million TAM businesses. And as far as the 1M1M program is concerned, we are perfectly happy to support you in building those businesses. Not all companies need to be funded. Not all companies should be going after funding, and that's okay too. You don't have to raise funding. Mohammed, you're sending me private messages asking for instructions on how to call in. Please work with Maureen on technicalities. I cannot anchor this call and give you technical support. I'm just stunned that you haven't figured out how to call in. Maureen, please take this offline from my hands. So folks, those of you who are looking for further resources, you can go to 1mby1m.com and you'll find tons of information. The blog is chock full of material. You'll find the blog, you'll find podcasts, these roundtable recordings, and so forth. There's a ton of free resources from which you can learn. And our belief is that the most important thing in the journey, especially of a first-time entrepreneur, if you've done it before, especially if you've done it before successfully, then you have climbed already this incredibly steep learning curve. But you haven't done it before means that you're going to have to climb this incredibly steep learning curve as you are doing it, as you are building a business. And that is difficult and that is intense. So you have to create a process and structure of how to climb that learning curve, and that's what we help you do very efficiently, very effectively, and very quickly. So that's what you'll find on a blog as a good starting point. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series has 12 volumes of case study-based books. You'll find tons of learning material there, and you can double-click on a topic and learn on that topic. Like, for example, we have a bunch of unorthodox things that we do here, especially because we support what we call the other 99% entrepreneurs as well who are not ready for funding. And in that case, you may have to bootstrap with a paycheck, you may have to bootstrap using services, etc. And we work in a lot of geographies that don't have very mature seeds investment infrastructure. So all that has to be mitigated to be able to do what we do, which is scalably accelerate companies, incubate companies, accelerate companies, and we want you to learn all these nuances, whichever fits your particular situation. These roundtables happen every week. So you can come to these roundtables as often as you like to. You can listen to the recordings, and these are good, very good learning opportunities. The full acceleration program of 1 million by 1 million is the 1M by 1M premium. We offer you extensive methodology guidance. We have a case studies and video lectures based curriculum that is more than 300 hours of curriculum, but you get very fast. If you spend like 50 hours on the core curriculum, you take a very quick path through the core material that you need to have under your belt from a methodology point of view with which you can navigate your journey much more effectively. We help you with business development. We do also have a huge Rolodex that is available to you anytime you want if you're part of the program. We help you with coaching. We have private roundtables similar to these where the actual project-based coaching takes place. We help you with financing when you're ready and if you're ready. Not all companies are ready to be introduced to investors. Some are not. If you're not and you have a fundable company, we'll help you get ready. So there's a whole continuum of readiness. And if you are ready to be introduced, we will introduce you to investors. We also have tremendous clout in the media, getting the word out about your business, about what you're doing, and what your business is, what value proposition you have. Getting the word out on your company in the media out there is very, very important, and that is something that we can help you with because of our clout in the media. I brought up the self-assessment earlier. Self-assessment, this 1M1M self-assessment is available for free. It's a questionnaire. It's a questions that investors would inevitably ask you, and you have to answer these questions. So before you go to any investor, put your business through this question process. And this self-assessment will help you crystallize the answers that you're going to give to investors. And it's really effective, really, really effective in working through the kind of grilling you're going to get from investors. If you get stuck while you're trying to answer these questions, if you need methodology guidance, another very easy, quick way to go about filling that methodology gap is 1M1M Basic, which is the curriculum-only option. You can just sign up for 1M1M Basic and start learning on your own the methodology and start, putting flesh around the skeleton that you build of your product roadmap, your business plan, etc. And so in any case, there's a ton of material on the website. You will be able to, get a pretty comprehensive feel for what this program is all about, what to expect from the premium program, what to expect from basic. There are video FAQs. See if this program is for you. It is not for everybody. This program is not for everybody. You have to be very disciplined and very comfortable with a lot of self-learning, doing a lot of intensive, rigorous learning. And that is really the methodology of the program. We give you the tools. It's like a gym membership, You can't lose weight. You can't get in shape by just buying a gym membership. You have to do the work. So even if you buy the 1M1M membership and you don't do any work, it's going to do absolutely squat for you. So you have to have the self-discipline to be able to follow the program and do the work. Like if you come to a coaching session in one of the roundtables and let's say we discuss your project and there are like, 5 action items that you have to go and work on. If you don't do the follow-on work, then we can't help you progress. But we have been doing this for 7 years now, and it has worked very well for those entrepreneurs who are willing and able to do the homework and the self-study and so on and so forth. So the rigor of the program, if you're able to follow it, is extremely effective. The curriculum is case studies and video lectures based. We have over 750 successful entrepreneurs who have participated in developing this curriculum. And they include over 50 unicorn entrepreneurs, 400 plus venture funded companies, 300 plus bootstrap success stories. And you see their, 0 to whatever success level journey in gory details in front of you in these case studies. And you learn a ton. First and foremost, it's very inspiring to see how people build from scratch to these, really interesting, successful businesses. And 2, they've been incredibly generous, and they continue to be incredibly generous in sharing the details, the block-by-block details, the how to put one foot before the other details of their journeys. And you learn a ton from these. So the entire program is case study based, and you often meet these people in our, roundtable format and so forth. So we constantly have guests at the roundtables and so forth. So it's a community. It's a community. It's a tremendous body of content that you can learn from, and you can stand on the shoulders of giants who have executed. So that's pretty much what the program is. The methodology is lean, capital efficient, bootstrap startups, and even if you raise money, you're going to have to bootstrap first, raise money later. You have to get to some level of validation before you get funded. So that's just the way the industry works. So it seems like Mohammad is on the call, so let me go back to Mohammad's presentation. Mohammad, can you please speak up and to see if you can access the call?
Hi, did you hear me now, right now?
Yes, we can hear you now. So go ahead, your slides are up on the screen. Please go ahead and do your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I am Mohammad Omar from Jordan. My experience 7 years in games field, and right now I am working on a big race.
What's going on, Mohammad? We can't hear you. Folks, while Mohammad is sorting through his, technical issues, he seems to be having some technical issues from Jordan. The chat is open. So you can ask questions, introduce yourselves, do whatever you like in the public chat and participate in the conversation. If you like, you can also dial in. I'll put up the dial-in instructions in a moment. But now it's open Q&A time. So it's also a great time for networking. So please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're joining from, what you're working on, what your challenges are, and so forth. So for the next 12 minutes, we do have, plenty of Q&A opportunity. I see a question from Jose Avalos in public chat. He's asking one question: the annual membership, could we pay in an equal monthly manner? No, you cannot. If you want a monthly program that is 1M1M basic, that is a curriculum-only program, which may be perfect for you for the time being. You need to do a lot of learning. So I would recommend, Jose, for your sake, for your situation right now, just sign up for 1M1M Basic, and that's a monthly program, and study. Allocate a amount of time every week, several hours every week. The more you can allocate to just studying the curriculum, the core curriculum, and also the e-commerce module of the curriculum, and the more you can get through that for the time being, that's going to be the fastest way for you to learn, and you don't need to sign up for 1M1M Premium right now. You should just do 1M1M Basic and do intensive curriculum training at the moment. That is the right stage for you. Anybody else? Questions, comments, introductions, feedback, roadblocks? We can work through whatever you want to work through right now.
Is
that Mohammed? Okay, folks, also, this is the roundtable schedule for the next month. We have one more left before the holidays in December, on December 21st, next week, 379th session. And then we have 4 in January, and pretty much January, February, all the way until mid-May, we have roundtables every week with no break. So lots of opportunities for you to come and, work. These are working sessions. So you can come and work with us here at your convenience. And we also have these in-person rendezvous in Menlo Park. So if you're based in Silicon Valley, or if you're visiting Silicon Valley, and if you want to get together in person, we pretty much, from January onwards, we're going to have every week in-person rendezvous. We meet in Cafe Boroni in Menlo Park. So we'll have lots of these opportunities going forward. We just had one last night, and it's great. These are small, intimate, in-person discussion sessions and, meetups, essentially. So, questions, comments, introductions? Is Mohammed on the call?
Yeah, I am on the call. So sorry for the disconnection. Some problems with my phone.
You're having lots of technical challenges. Okay, I'm going to go back to your slides and give you another opportunity to pitch. But if we lose you again, then I'm afraid we're going to have to move on because it's disrupting the call too much. We are extremely patient because people are dialing from so many different parts of the world. We are very patient and accommodating, but go ahead. So let's try to give it another go. What are you working on?
Thank you very much. So I was talking about, I am working on a big drag racing game for the mobile market, and this game gonna be the first game in the world because it have a lot of customization and too many types of cars, like Formula 1 cars, like Formula 1 trucks, and 4x4 hypercars. All the cars that the users love it. So I only got one competitor in the market, and that competitor game called CSR2. It's from Zynga.
Yeah. All right. It looks like he's gone again. This is a car gaming company. Mohammed, are you there? So Mohammed, I'm just skipping through your slides, and I'm just going to give you some feedback which you can pick up in the recording later. I think we're having too much technical difficulty, but I don't want to leave you without any feedback. It looks like you have a car gaming company concept. There's a big competitor that Zynga has acquired in 2014, and that has a revenue of $527 million in 2 years after acquiring the game, which is all good news. So the comparable is a successful comparable. But unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get investment to complete and deploy the game. You're going to have to bootstrap your way to completing and deploying the game, and basically make it gain at least some degree of traction before any investor would be investing in your company. And that's just the way the apps and gaming market works. People don't invest in concepts unless you have the track record of bringing to market successful games or successful businesses before. So unfortunately, that is the reality of the business we are in, and you just have to live with that reality and work within the constraints of that reality. All right, folks, does anybody else from the room want to call in and have a quick chat? The call-in instructions are on your screen, and you can also ask questions or comments, introductions, etc. in public chat. While you're doing that, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the 1M by1M program, Irina is your contact, Irina at 1M1M.com, and she'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And that's pretty much all we have in today's session. I'm not sure if Ken is still on the call or he's already on his flight. Ken, are you still there? I think he's already on his flight. Well, thank you, Ken, for being here. It was a very helpful set of insights, and especially for Jason's company, I think the insights that Ken provided were fabulous. Ken, you still on?
Hello?
Yeah, who is this?
Hi, this is Syriac here. I'm calling from Nevada City, California. Is there still time to ask questions I'd like to ask?
Yes, there is, absolutely. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Shimana.
Good morning.
We are working on a pain analytics and solutions app. Right now, we are at the stage where we have like 50% of the prototype ready. It's been made. I can demonstrate it on various platforms. Is that a good enough phase to start asking for funding? Because I heard you say twice or thrice already that they don't fund concepts. Totally understandable, but at the concept stage.
So this is a question that is hard to answer without a lot more data. So my recommendation to you would be to pitch at one of the upcoming roundtables. You can probably pitch as early as next week. If you work with Maureen, I don't know what the schedule is for next week, but I would like to work on your business together with you and give you more specific feedback. I want to give you one general feedback, and this may be helpful not only for you. You asked a good question, but this is something that all of you need to understand. See, what happens in the funding space right now, in the early stage funding space right now, and you may have read some of this in my writings, I've been writing about this quite a bit, is that when I was first raising money in my first company or second company, that was in the 90s, late 90s, mid to late 90s. And the situation in the market was you raise some friends and family money, then you raise seed round, and then you raise Series A. There was a lot more money, a lot less money in the market, but it was kind of straightforward. Today, there's a lot more money in the market, but the early stage fundraising game has also become much more complex and much more segmented. So before you raise a Series A, you could be raising not only friends and family, but you could be raising pre-seed, seed, post-seed, pre-Series A, and then you get to Series A. So there could be 6-7 rounds of financing before you get to Series A. And there's a whole class of micro VCs that have come into that early stage game and have inserted themselves in different phases of that pre-Series A game. Now, the earlier you are, there are fewer players who are willing to work with you. And the earlier you are, the more difficult it is to raise money. So that is the general lay of the land. If you come and give me more details about your business in a follow-on pitch session, I will give you very, very pointed, direct answers to your question about are you ready for financing or not, and I'll give you exactly what your scenario is.
Sounds good, Shamna. I'll most probably pitch next week.
Perfect. Excellent.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions or comments or introductions? Mahesh Sharma from Oracle Bangalore. Great. Is introducing himself. Anybody wants to introduce? Please do that. Jose, you're very welcome. I hope you found it helpful and you're going to focus on the learning that you need, and you can actually very easily, very quickly learn what you need to learn to build an e-commerce company. This is a tried and true methodology. Anyone else? All right, folks, we will see you back here for the last roundtable of the year next week on December 21st, and work with Maureen to reserve your pitch slots on the website, and she will give you instructions on how to pitch. And we'll see you soon. We still have another couple of weeks of work left before we adjourn for, maybe not a couple of weeks, maybe another week of work left before we adjourn for the holidays. But let's get things done in that 1 week so that we feel very good about ending 2017 on a high note. Good luck, everybody. See you soon. Bye.